Hello guys, my name is Samada. I'm a computer engineering student in UK and today we're going to see how to create a double linked list in Java. As we have seen before in other videos, we already know how to create a single linked list in Java. But in this case, we're going to see how to create a double linked list in Java, which is a new kind of data structures and algorithms. As we can see in the diagram, the idea behind the double linked list is that while in a single linked list, each node links to the next node, it means to the next data of the linked list. In this case, each node is going to be linked to both the next and the previous nodes. So you can move through the linked list in two ways, not just in one way. Let's see how we can code that. First of all, we are going to create a class. We are going to write our node class, which is going to be called node, obviously. The first element of our node class is going to be the variable of type string called data, and it's going to be private. And then we're going to create a public variable called node of type node, which is going to be called prev, and then another public variable of type node, which is going to be called next. Then we are going to create our constructor, the constructor of the class, which is going to be public node, and which is going to take as argument a variable of type data, which of type string, which is going to be called data. You're going to relate the data in the argument to the data we wrote before through the statement called this.data equal to data. And then we're going to create our first method. This method is going to be called public string get data. It's going to return the variable data, and it's not going to take any argument. Then our second method is going to be as well public. It's going to return nothing, so it's going to be void. It's going to be called set data. It's going to take an argument as well, a variable of type string, which is going to be called data. And in order to make it work, remember that in Java, the file has to be called in the same way as the class. So if we have a class called node, we have to store it in a file called node. So we can continue with our code. And once we have done with the class node, we're going to create the double linked list itself in a specific class called class double linked list. First of all, we're going to create variable type node, which is going to be called head. It's going to be private and static. For the second variable, it's going to be type node as well, private and static, and it's going to be called tail, which is going to be the end of. So those variables, they are going to be the beginning and the end of our double linked list. Then we are going to define our method init, which is gonna basically initialize our linked list. It's going to contain a variable of type node, which is basically an instance of class node, which is going to contain the string Liverpool. Then the prev element of our head is going to be null, as we have anything before the first element. And the next element, by now, it's going to be null as well, since till we create a new node. So for the second node, is going to be as well an instance of class node, which is going to be called node Auckland. In this case, which is going to contain new node, which is going to contain as well a string. Then we're going to define the prev as the head, and the next and the next as null as well. Finally, we're going to define the head next as node Auckland. Then our third node, and it's going to be node Manchester, an instance of the class node called node Manchester, which is going to contain the string Manchester, and so on. We are going to define it in the same way, and we are going to link it. We're going to link it with the linked list in the same way as we have done with the other nodes. And finally, we're going to create the end of the linked list, which is going to be a node, which is going to contain the string leads, and it's going to be defined as well like the other nodes, and implemented into the single list, into the linked list in the same way. When we have created our linked list, the next step is to print it. To do that, we are going to create a function called print, which is going to contain the needed instructions in order to do that, which is going to take as argument a node. It's going to contain a variable of type node called p. It's going to be equal to node. Then we're going to create a variable of type node called end, which is going to be null. And then through the while loop, we're going to define the main instruction of print, which is basically saying while p is not null, there is going to exist a variable called data, which is going to contain the get data, the returned information from get data from the node, from the class node, and we are going to print it. System.out.println and finally we're going to store the variable p into the variable end, and we're going to store the p.next element into the variable p. Then we're going to print through the system.out.print the line end. And that's it. Once we have finished, we're going to store variable end into p, and through a new while statement, what we're going to say is that while p is not null, we're going to do the same thing but in the other sense, because this time it's not a single linked list, but it's a double linked list. So we're going to print it in two senses, from head to tail and from tail to head. So in this case, we're going to print same element, but for each element we're going to store the n, the pnext into p, the pre-previous into p instead of the pnext. And we're going to end the line as well. At this time it's going to be the beginning of the line. Finally, we're going to write our method main, which is going to be the main function of our program. And basically we're going to call our methods init and our method print. Remember that we have to save it with the same name as the class. In this case is a double linked list class, so it's going to be a double linked list file. Yeah, I have to fix that. Double linked list, that's it. And then we can run our code. And that's it. As you can see, you can see our linked list in both ways, from start to end and from end to start. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you like it. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.